Last night, Captain Marvel had its first official press screening, and man, people are tweeting about this film. Wait until you hear what people are saying about Brie Larson and Captain Marvel. Stay up to date about the nerdy things that you care about. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode. Number one, I gotta do a correction to something that I brought up in the show yesterday, so I'm gonna talk about that in just a second. And there is a ton, and I mean a literal ton, of new Star Wars news to talk about Star Wars Episode 9 and beyond that. And so instead of jam-packing the Star Wars stuff in this episode of the Nerdy News Rundown, I figured let's just do a fan chat. Later today, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, fan chat, live streaming here on the channel, talking about Star Wars, all of the craziness coming down the pike for Star Wars Episode 9 and beyond it. Are we really gonna get a Rose Tico show? Are we really gonna get a Darth Bane show? Well, you'll be surprised at where the sources are coming from. That's all going down later today. And guys, for a shout out today, I didn't want to shout out anyone specifically. I just wanted to shout out, like, in general, the community here at the Den of Nerds. And so yesterday when I talked about Captain Marvel on the show, it was very contentious. There was a lot of drama in the comment section. And then later that day, we did the fan chat talking about all of these issues in a more casual, laid-back setting with you guys. And a lot of people came there with a lot of different opinions, and I felt like it was a pretty healthy, cathartic conversation. Check out that live stream if you had not. And honestly, if you ever want to, like, dig deep, go in depth on these sort of things, really the fan chats, that's what those are for. Now, speaking of mess ups, I did technically drop the ball yesterday on a story. It was the last story, the Captain Marvel thing that we talked about with the Rotten Tomatoes scores, where a lot of people were sabotaging the Rotten Tomatoes scores on or for Captain Marvel. And I should clarify, actually no one is doing a score on Rotten Tomatoes for Captain Marvel yet. What they're doing is sort of like a desire to see it, like, how do I desire to see it or not? And so in that sense, there were people that filled this thing out and talked about Brie Larson's comments and said, like, hey, look, these things she said are making me not want to go see the movie. Now, technically, that's exactly the way the service is designed, so they weren't exactly using it incorrectly, but I still believe that it was an organized effort to make this film hurt in some way, because again, people have considered it part of this culture war. My thoughts on that are pretty explicit. I don't think it's a part of a culture war. I don't think it needs to be. And we talked about that a lot yesterday, but I did want to amend, because look, when I get stuff wrong, I should man up about it. So I got stuff wrong in the video yesterday. Want to clarify that. All right, now we can finally get into the news. So yes, last night, Captain Marvel had its first official press screening, man, and a lot of people had their eyeballs on this, trying to see what would come out of these press screenings, like, how is this movie exactly? Because as yesterday was a perfect case in point, the conversation about Captain Marvel very rarely is about the quality of the film. How is the actual movie? That's really not on the table for a lot of people. They have their own thing going on with it. But last night, we got the first official vibe, feeling, taste, if you will, as how Captain Marvel actually performs as a movie. And it was overwhelmingly positive. Almost every single person that tweeted about this movie was tweeting about how wonderful it is. Now, it's not all perfect, and the film probably does have some flaws, which were sort of laid out in some of the comments last night as well. But yeah, we're gonna talk about all of that right now. And also, before we get into that clarification here, technically these are not reviews, although, I mean, they're pretty much reviews in my opinion. These are sort of the cliff notes of reviews, which are what reviews tend to become in either case. So let's go through what people are tweeting about the movie and, you know, take it for what it is. Let's start with Mike Ryan here. He says, Captain Marvel isn't what I expected based on marketing. It's pretty much an all-in cosmic space movie. Also, it's a lot weirder than I expected. Ben Mendelsohn is awesome as Talos. Here's what Ash Crossan had to say. Captain Marvel takes deep 90s breath, totally awesome. Never related to a Marvel character quite like Carol. She's the stubborn, witty 90s kid I like to think I am. Kara Warner says, just out of Captain Marvel, so many fun surprises I didn't expect, plus new and old, characters to love. Katie Bird says, some initial Captain Marvel reactions. Number 1, cat people will love this movie. Number 2, several truly magnificent music moments for the 90s kids. Damn, that was hard to say. Number 3, Carol's hero moment was very cathartic / true to the female experience in my humble opinion. Number 4, the MCU feels more complete now that Carol is in it. Eric Davis says, Captain Marvel was a great 90s sci-fi vibe with a tone unlike any other Marvel movie. Really. It's retro and trippy, mysterious, and dorky. It's funny in surprising places and badass in all the right places. It remains entertaining because it's always changing. It's got the right stuff. Here's what Eric Eisenberg says. Captain Marvel is a blast. Has some cool surprises that I definitely didn't see coming, and the mystery / origin it weaves is engaging and fun. Brie Larson is is awesome and makes a fantastic first step into the MCU. Gregory Elwood says, Captain Marvel is a mixed bag. First half is slow and uninspired. Second half, much better. Feels like directors could not escape Marvel formula. Mendelsohn steals the movie. VFX of full Marvel powers, much better than trailers. Drew Taylor says, really loved Captain Marvel. It's a little wobbly at times, but only because it's so ambitious. It's beautifully constructed, hilarious, and offers tons of surprises. Brie Larson obviously rules, but Ben Mendelsohn is the surprise MVP. Steve Frosty Weintraub from Collider says, Captain Marvel is a welcome addition to the MCU. The movie is really well done with some great moments. Ben Mendelsohn steals almost every scene he's in. Brie Larson literally shines in the role. So ready for Avengers Endgame. Peter Scaretta says, Captain Marvel is a great origin story. Brie's buddy cop chemistry with Sam Jackson is so much fun, and her relationship with Lashana Lynch is the real heart of it. Ben Mendelsohn and the cat both steal the show. Perry Nimroff, also from Collider, says, the future of the MCU gets even brighter adding Captain Marvel to the mix. Really fell for Brie Larson's sass, strength, and energy in the role. Same with Lashana Lynch, too. Ben Mendelsohn is A+ casting as Talos, and yes, Goose is a scene stealer. Second viewing can't come soon enough. So there you have it there, guys, but let's talk about some of the positives and some of the negatives that are coming out from these comments and things that we can sort of just parse when it comes to this movie. Number one, let's talk about the positives. So I saw a lot of people saying that it does a really good job of like being pro-woman without sort of being in your face, without being pushy. And of course, we got to talk about this because it's all anybody wants to talk about. So technically, I'm putting this in the positive category and I'm withholding judgment because I don't think it'll be pushy or just take over the film. If indeed it does at the end of the day, and I'll have to dock it points for that. Number two, it says that this is just a crazy all-in space adventure, and I really like that. And I saw in the tweets people saying it's different than what was marketed, and that's good because the marketing for the film I've been kind of critical of, especially in the first couple trailers, just kind of boring, man. Doesn't really tell you much, doesn't get you that excited. The Kree and the Skrull are such a huge draw for me. To hear people say that it's very ambitious and almost wobbly because of how crazy it goes into the space stuff makes me really happy. So check that off as another positive thing. Number three, Ben Mendelsohn is just repeatedly said to be the MVP of this movie. He steals the show, and what's great about this is, you know, when it comes to Marvel, we've had some crappy villains, you know what I mean? Loki and Killmonger are great. Claw is pretty great as well. But other than that, we've really had a lot of just boring villains, you know, flavor of the week villains. It appears that Ben Mendelsohn, who of course has amazing chops, steals the show and is great as Talos, the Skrull commander. I'm pretty freaking happy about that. Number four, this cat, Goose, is apparently amazing. It's like an alien cat. It's apparently just really, really well done in the film. And if you're a cat lover, you're gonna really like the movie. So check that off as another positive. Now, some of the negatives here, again, it could be related to how pushy the feminist kind of agenda or whatever you want to call it is in the film. I'm withholding judgment here, but it's definitely in there. I don't think that really should be a surprise to anybody. I hope that it is handled tactfully and not, you know, hitting us over the head. Also, a lot of people said the first half of the film was kind of clanky, that the film sort of stumbles and probably just runs through a lot of tropes. And you saw people saying things like, can't escape the Marvel formula. Guys, you know, there's this thing going on in Hollywood where critics are, well, overly critical of the Marvel formula and what these movies end up doing for the most part with their, you know, humor and just casual entertainment. And so that's probably a negative. I mean, if the first part of the film might be pretty clanky and, you know, take that for what it is, it's got to be considered a negative aspect. I also saw people talking about how just straight up weird the movie is, and that could potentially be a negative as well. I mean, if it sort of takes you out of the film, if it's way too different than what you expect from Marvel movies, then that could sort of hurt the formula and the vibe that you're in when you're checking these movies out. So potentially a negative there with just how weird the movie is and how ambitious it is towards the space craziness. Might have not nailed it 100% with that stuff. Overall, I think there's a lot to be pumped about. If you're a Marvel fan, like, how could you not be excited for this stuff? Sounds pretty amazing to me. So that is it for the news. Kind of a shorter show today, just going over these social media reviews after the first press screening for Captain Marvel. What do you think about what people are saying about this? Has it got you a little bit more excited, a little bit less excited for Captain Marvel? Whatever you're thinking about that, let me know in the comments section below. All right, let's check the nerd card before we get out of here. I want to know, what was the Earth-given name for the original Mar-Vell in the comic books? The love interest of Carol Danvers. You probably know the story. Answer that question in the comment section below. It's sort of quiet on the MCU new front other than this Captain Marvel stuff. There was another leak of War Machine's armor. We've sort of already talked about that at length, but do let me know if you want me to clarify or give thoughts about that in a video. And guys, as I said earlier in this video, there's so much crazy Star Wars news to talk about, so come by for the fan chat today, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come in, bring your questions. We'll talk about all this craziness going on with Star Wars. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.